Welcome everybody. Today I'm going to talk about the new Profoto B10 Plus, the 500 watt second B10, and why I'm not going to buy it. Let's do it. Before I jump into this video, those of you who have not already seen, I have done extensive reviews and videos and experiments with the Profoto B10s. We did an amazing video here in Miami with an awesome fashion model, which was great. That was sort of my very first attempt to really put them through their paces and see what they're made of and see what they could withstand and test out all the different modifiers and see how hard we could use them and overpower the sun and so on and so forth. And that was a lot of fun, and it was a great video. A lot of people have seen it. That's helped a lot of people make their decision up about buying this light, and that was super cool. Then a few months later, I actually flew that same model out to Las Vegas. Then I facilitated a 5-day workshop on posing, lighting, and composition. We used the Profoto B10s with the different modifiers out in the middle of the desert for 5 days. These things were sick. They performed flawlessly. I was able to overpower the sun with no problems. You can see all those amazing results, as well as the behind the scenes video for that, which is 90 minutes long. You will literally get to go with us for that 5-day adventure and see us in action. You can learn a lot about not only these lights, but about photography in that video. I highly recommend checking that out when you have time. And again, you'll see that these lights are more than capable of overpowering the sun. And so that's really awesome. All right, guys, so let me dig into this. I woke up this morning literally with about 15 DMs on Instagram from people asking me what my thoughts are on the new B10 Plus light. If I'm going to be upgrading, do I have it? Do I know about it? All this stuff. There's in some of the stuff, some of the questions I've gotten, I've also been alarming because they're like, well, I just bought the B10s based on your other videos, and now this is coming out, and now they're like freaking out. They're like, you know, should I return it? Look, so I needed to make this video to really try to help a certain group of people with this. And let me just say this as point blank as I can. I have absolutely, positively zero interest in the new B10 Plus, nor am I going to be selling anything. I'm not going to be buying these lights. I really don't even care to see them in person or to use them. I already understand the differences. It's very simple. This was not a major product update from Profoto. It was very expected. I actually knew kind of ahead of time through some of my little sources within Profoto that the B1X was going to be extinct this year. I knew that they were going to be redesigning it, and it makes perfect sense that was going to be right in line with what the B10 is, so that the product assortment for Profoto is now very consistent through and through, which makes perfect sense. So this essentially is the new B1X. This is their 500 watt second portable cordless light, right? So here's the thing, okay? The first thing I want to talk about is I need to kind of just quickly address the fact that this light is not twice as more powerful. So let me try to kind of just quickly go over that, okay? First of all, you're looking at about a one-stop difference between these two lights. That's what you're going to see in the real world. I'm not going to get into all the details. I've done numerous testing with plenty of lights over the years. This does not change just because it's a new light. These are using the same exact front element. The reflectors are exactly the same. You are going to see, at best, a one-stop variance. So in other words, value 9 on the 1 to 10 scale on the more powerful light is going to equal full power on the lesser light, not the other way around. So it's not like you're going to get twice as much more horsepower out of this light as you would the other one. So just please keep that in mind. The only thing that this would impact would be the efficiency as it relates to the battery, but the problem here, and this is one of my negatives, is the fact that the new light, the new Profoto B10 Plus, uses the exact same battery as the B10, which I get it. I understand why Profoto did that. It was very clever for them because they knew that most users already now have that system, so now they could just buy this light and then integrate their existing batteries. I get it, very, very cool. But that does nothing for improved efficiency. Here's what I mean, is that normally, let's just say, for example, that the Profoto B10 Plus at 500 watt seconds had a proprietary battery that was for that light, that gave it more flashes, or at least matched the 400 flashes that the B10 is rated for at full power. let's just say that it did do that, and let's just say, for instance, that it was rated for 600 or 800 flashes at full power. That would have been really, really cool, especially if they could have kept it that same size and weight, but they didn't. They used the same battery from the B10. So now what happens is that they've sliced the battery output in half. So at full power on the new light, you're going to get 200 flashes instead of 400 flashes on the B10. The problem with this, though, is that then to make that more efficient, then you would have to dial that back down to value 9, which is now the equivalent of a B10 anyway, to get more flashes, to get the 400 flashes. So they have not improved the battery efficiency whatsoever in this light, and they did that in exchange to keep the form factor the same as the B10, to keep the weight down, and to allow users to have that compatibility with batteries. So that very much is a trade-off. Unfortunately, that's also a reason not to get the light. If it did have a proprietary battery that enabled it to get more flashes at the higher rating, then you could dial that back down to a B10 power level, but get significantly more flashes out of it than you would have gotten with a B10, thus making that a really awesome light to use in the field, sacrificing the fact that it's 3 inches bigger, a pound heavier, but you could have gotten like at least 400 flashes at full power to match a B10, and or like maybe 800 flashes at value 9, one stop less, which is double what a B10 would have been. That would have been really, really cool on the efficiency side of things, but they didn't do that, so that's not good. Looking at the size and weight of this light, it's close to the B10, but it's not. You see, it's still bigger. It's still longer now. They sell it as like a long telephoto lens. The problem with that, though, is that now I can't get 2 of these lights in my carry-on bags like I can the B10s. 3 inches per light is a big deal when you're traveling by air. And for me, I do that a lot. And so for me, that is an instant deal breaker. The fact that they're longer and bigger really negates the fact that they're small and lighter than the B1X. It's like, that's great, but now the benchmark is really the B10. And once you've used the B10 and you're used to packing the B10, nothing else compares to that. Now you got to deal with a light that's that much longer, and that's going to make it much more difficult. For instance, we're going to be going to Paris here in a couple weeks, and I'm shooting fashion in Paris for 11 days, plus a sick wedding over there. And everything is already planned in terms of our bags, and there's no way that I could fit 2 of these in the same bag with the other camera gear that I'm bringing. It's packed right perfect as it is. There's absolutely not 6 inches of extra room in that bag where I could fit two of these new lights. It's just not going to work. It's going to put over the carry-on size. It's going to be just a big problem in general. And so that's another consideration that I personally would have, and another reason why I would not switch to this light. The other factor here that we have to talk about, and I don't care who you are or how much money you have, cost is always a factor. These all are expensive lights. And this kit is now going to be $1,000 more expensive than the B10s. And for an extra $1,000, just to have an extra one stop of power that I just know I would only use on occasion out in the field sometimes, makes absolutely no sense, period. This is a classic situation where you're going to be paying a lot more money for something and you're not going to get that back at all in feature, function, or value whatsoever. At least for the type of photography that I do, like that makes absolutely no difference. One stop difference in practical application, guys, really is like 1 or 2 feet closer to your subject with whatever modifier you're using. It is really not a big deal at all. You would be very, very surprised if you actually go and try this out yourself out in the field. You know, a lot of people will be out in the field and you'll see them do reviews and they'll have the lights, 6 feet away from their subject or whatever it is, and they'll do their tests and they're like, yeah, well, this one is better because it's one stop more powerful. And I'm like, yeah, but could you have gotten it like 3 or 4 feet closer, a little bit more to the side, and got a very similar result and it's still out of the frame? Yeah, you could have, but you don't think that way. So it's like, you have to think outside the box here for some of this stuff, and you have to compromise a little bit here. I mean, is it worth $1,000 just to be lazy and just to throw the light wherever and crank it up all the way to have that extra one stop of power? Maybe it is. I mean, look, there's commercial guys that are very specific, or you need to punch a larger modifier and overpower ambient at the same time. That could be a factor. A common question I get about the B10 is, does it work well in a large modifier? Yes, it works perfectly fine. I've used it personally in the 7-foot Octabanks by Profoto. There's no problem with it at all. It holds fine. It fills the thing just fine. This is going to fill it exactly the same way. The front elements are identical on these two lights. There's going to be no difference there whatsoever. The only difference is you'll get a little bit more punch out of the newer light, because it does put out that extra stop of power, which could make a difference if you're outdoors and you're trying to do that. But here's the thing with that, and you have to understand that whenever I'm outdoors and I'm overpowering the sun, I'm never using large, soft modifiers. It's the opposite of that. I'm always using a hard beauty dish, super reflective modifiers, the Magnum OCF, which adds 2 stops of power anyway to the light, to match the ambient, to match that sun, so it all gels together and makes sense. I don't want these fluffy, soft, ridiculous light on my subject when I have a really cool, edgy, kind of a overpowered scene outdoors anyway. So to me, in my common sense, it just doesn't make sense to even think about that scenario to begin with. And when you're inside, like in a studio setting, that's where a big softer light really makes more sense for very controlled portraiture work. And in those scenarios, you're indoors, you're not overpowering anything. And with today's cameras, you can increase your ISO, that 1 stop, you're not going to see any difference. I'm trying to just say that in most situations, that 1 stop difference can be negated in so many different ways that that's a non-factor. So to sum this up, the 1 stop difference between the two in power output is very minimal at best, and in most case scenarios, it's a non-issue completely, at least for me. Number 2, it doesn't use a proprietary battery. There's no more efficiency on the battery at all. There's no reason at all that I would want this other light to dial it back to use it in more practical terms to get more. I mean, it's just not going to work out that way at all. If anything, I'm only getting half of my battery pops, because I might be tempted to use it at full power because it is there, and that's not going to be good. And at best, I dial it back down, and I'm at what a B10 would be anyway in terms of the battery. So I might as well just have the B10 for 90% of the work or more, and have a smaller unit that packs well and is 1 pound lighter. And that brings me to the next point of packing it up. Having a smaller light is always the best option. The B10 really is the standard for that, in my opinion. That cannot be beat. And once you've experienced that, that becomes all that you want. And to me, that is the winner. That's the clear winner here. Period. Is the B10, because of just how small it is, how powerful it is, how much it packs down. There's just no beating that. The last thing I want to say is that I have had a topple over with a B10. It was on a nano stand on an engagement session, and it did break. I did have to send it in for service, and I had it actually replaced, which is nice. Thank you, Profoto. And I still had to pay though, and I think I talked about that on my Instagram a while back. The thing is, now with this new light, it's another pound plus heavier, and it's just that much more receptible to topple over. The big selling point with the B10 is the fact that you can use these super small nano stands, and that's awesome because those travel a whole lot better than a regular stand or a heavy duty light stand. And so having the smaller light as possible on that stand is what I look for, and I don't want anything else on there that's going to be any bit bigger, and certainly not anything that's more expensive such as this light. Alright guys, so those are my reasons for not wanting to switch to this light. I'm not going to do it at all. And again, that is unique for me and the way that I use the light in my style of photography. I just know that that's not going to be a smart purchase on any level. Hopefully that was of some value to you. If you've already purchased the B10, you're fine, you're good. Don't upgrade to this because you're just lying to yourself, and that would probably be a bigger mistake that you may regret, okay? Unless you have a real specific reason for wanting to do that, and you can really sell yourself on that. But if we're being honest with each other, that's pretty few and far between for most photographers. But anyway, that's what it is. I have nothing to gain here or lose, so I'm not sponsored by Profoto, but I want to get these thoughts out there so that I can at least reference this video when people start asking me about this light. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.